Are you ready to get your feet wet? Because this is the Knowledge Pool, hosted by Gathering Information. We're here to bring you a casual conversation between friends about everything to do with collecting, trading, and playing Magic the Gathering.
I am Tams.
I am Step.
And I am Laura.
So put on your bathing suits and dive right into the Knowledge Pool. Hello and welcome to episode 22, haha, I got it right, of the Knowledge Pool.
Of all the things to be proud about this week, you're proud that you snuck it in on us and
That's
got
right.
the right episode number.
Absolutely.
Alright, well, standards.
I am, of course, Step, and I'm joined by Laura
Hello.
and Tams.
Hiya.
And we are back from GP Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
But first, let's talk about the news.
Yes, because while we were gone, there was plenty of news.
So, start with, I guess we can start with the Commander stuff.
Okay.
Just because there's not too much about it, Wizards has now posted pictures from each of the 4 decks onto the mothership. So the unofficially spoiled dragons and cats are up on there.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have a picture of, what's-his-face, the original vampire.
Markov.
What's-his-face?
Markov?
Yeah, the progenitor of the Markov clan, whatever his name
So
is.
probably vampires. And then a picture of what looks to be a human, which is leading some people to speculate that the 4th tribe is going to be human. But I think it's going to be more specific than that. I've heard wizards might be an option, which I think looks pretty apt just based on the art.
Yeah, and doesn't necessarily have to be humans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are human wizards, but there are also merfolk wizards.
Yeah, exactly.
Or there might even be vampire wizards
I
or
think
whatever.
humans would just be kind of boring. Plus, I don't think it would fit into a 4-color deck, which people are speculating all 4 of these decks are going to be.
Could be.
Or a 5-color deck, rather, which all 4 of these are
See, I
supposed
don't
to be.
think they're all going to be 5 colors. I think 4 color is more... I mean, I kind of hope that they spread them out. So one is a 2-color deck, and then
Well,
one
they've
is
already
a
got
3-color
2
deck.
5-color decks
Yeah.
that have been unofficially spoiled. So we'll see. I've also heard a possibility of maybe clerics with a demon sub-theme, which I thought would be sweet, but is less likely than just straight-up wizards.
Yeah, well, Wizards is unofficially one of the most popular tribes in Magic, so...
Yeah. Basically, all I can say is I'm bummed there's no tree folk.
Yeah, I feel
Or
that.
squirrels.
I'm happy that there are cats, so...
That's pretty sweet.
Speaking of squirrels, though,
Yes, let's
we wanna-
speak about squirrels.
do you want to talk about squirrels?
That is next on the list. Stop, take it away.
So, Unstable. The 3rd official parody Magic set was announced just a little while ago, and we now have some details.
Yes, like the set symbol.
Yeah, the set symbol, which is a wrench with regular, wrench nut at one end and an acorn at the other.
Which makes me think squirrels.
Of course, there's going to be
Hello,
squirrels.
Dress Kitty.
There's always going to be squirrels in an unset.
That
That's
makes
the
me
only place that they'll
excited.
let Morrow
Have his squirrels.
Have his squirrels. Which, as far as squirrel enthusiasts go, I am not one, but I understand the appeal of squirrels.
But deranged hermit.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. So there will, of course, be squirrels, but there's also going to be story, which I kind of like because we didn't see that much in the other 2 unsets.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, when you and I were talking this morning, I was not expecting narrative. So that's exciting for me.
Well, it's kind of a projection of how Wizards R&D has changed over the years. Originally they just cared about cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started to care about mechanics and themes. And now, especially recently, they care a lot about telling the story, the narrative through the cards.
Mm-hmm.
And so the progression from unglued to unhinged to unstable kind of shows that same thing. So we get 5 tribes, clans, guilds, kind of, and
Unstable guilds.
Unstable guilds in a mad scientist world. And the reason I hesitated to say guilds is because these are not the guilds of Ravnica, although they will be 2-color allied paired groups.
Mm-hmm.
And they're each a different group of mad scientists.
That's really cool.
So, do we know anything about them?
their names and some pictures.
So, right off the bat, does anyone have any associations, anything that they might think they'd want to get in on?
I like the green-white one, which is like the gene manipulators or whatever.
Yeah, the very Simic kind of looking.
Well, for Selesnya, you know.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the goblins.
The red-green one?
Yeah. What are they, Explosioneers? Or
Yeah.
The Goblin Explosioneers.
That just sounds
Makes
amazing.
it sounds like Disney.
Sounds like I'm going to get some really good goblin tokens out of this.
And of course, the Green-White Guild are
Yeah, they're the gene mutators or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're called. So I actually thought that you'd be more interested in the Agents of Sneak, both of you.
Yeah, I thought that was my second choice.
Okay.
That I thought was cute.
Hi, Draft Cat. Do you have a choice?
I don't know. Agents of Sneak just don't pop out of the pages as mad scientists to me, so that might be why they didn't come to mind.
I think they're kind of Inspector Gadgety.
Sure.
In the same way that that Demir is sort of the shadow spy kind of.
I mean, Demir's
plan.
kind of like Man from U.N.C.L.E. shadowy.
Yeah. So there are 5 groups, each with their own thing, and we're going to hear more about them sooner or later, I'm sure. But,
Yeah, but it
I just
seems
think
fun.
it looks really sweet so far.
And they've also announced a couple things about lands and tokens.
Oh yes, there's going to be full art lands, and a lot of people are speculating that means completely full art with no borders or anything.
Oh, that could be cool.
And I think some support to that, although it may just be Morrow
Misty,
not
yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
is to say that I think it's the Goblin tribe, the Goblin Explosioneers,
Yep.
will have Steam Flogger Boss, which is a card from Future Sight, which dealt with contraptions, the exciting mythical mechanic that they never figured out how to make work.
But which is appearing now.
Yep. But he said that will be the only black bordered card in the set, which, I mean, could mean that the lands don't have borders, but also could just mean that he meant aside from lands.
Which you would normally just assume to have black borders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then tokens, they're talking about, what was it, foil tokens in the set? And not just for things from the set, but for popular tribes throughout Magic history.
That
which
makes
is
me happy.
sweet.
I kind of hope that they finally print a snake token for, what is it, Ophiomancer?
Oh yeah,
The black
black-
Death Touch snake?
yeah.
That would be sweet.
And they've also announced that there's going to be another set mechanic besides contraptions.
But they haven't announced what it was.
They have not told us anything
Okay.
about it, just that it exists.
I'm getting more and more excited.
Yep, I'm looking forward. I was kind of with other people saying, how much is this going to really be drafted? Before we knew any details, because unsets don't have a lot of sustainability.
Synergy
Now that we've got theming and the fact that there's going to be sort of a narrative, I'm more anticipating this being a very draft friendly environment.
By the way, my birthday's December 29th, just saying.
Okay.
So I don't want to be a buzzkill. I don't really care.
You don't really care?
I think part of the problem, something we mentioned earlier, there's just so much stuff happening and so many things being released that this is like at the bottom of the list of things I am putting energy into.
And see, for me, this is the one that I've chosen to care about
Me
above,
too.
like,
Right.
the Magic 25 or
I really don't
Epic
care about the
Masters or
Masters
whatever it's
stuff at all.
called.
Right. So
like-
just kind of different interests.
Yeah.
But
Which
It's
is,
a
I
lower
guess,
price point for me, so...
kind of what they had...
I guess, but they wouldn't have this problem if they had fewer stuff coming out. We'd just care about whatever
everything.
it was.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But, it's nice that we got some news. And, I mean, the pictures that we got of the various clans all looked very interesting and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
I also like the order of the widget, which is the white-blue one.
yes, it is.
They look very... What's
Maybe
his
they're
name?
the Inspector Gadget.
Kind of. Although I think like the Super Spy thing reads more Inspector Gadget to me. This makes me think more of like not Baron Munchausen. Who's the guy with the donkey?
Don Quixote.
Don Quixote. But like in Clockwork. I don't know.
I thought you were going comic book, not literary.
No, I would surprise you.
It wasn't a surprise. I was just not on the same track.
Yeah.
All right, so the third fairly major piece of announcement is just about more stuff about the standard showdowns. So they'd previously announced a slight revamping of the system and the prize packs, and including now the foil basic lands and stuff like that. They've also now said it no longer has to take place on Sunday. It can just be the standard showdown. So stores can choose to have it on any day of the week, as long as that day is not a Friday. They just have to choose one day and pick it to have on a regular basis.
So they can't like change it every week.
Yeah.
That seems reasonable.
It seems very reasonable.
Also probably better for different stores that don't necessarily match the Wizards
Right.
meta.
I mean, some stores just aren't even open 1 or 2 weekdays.
That's true, yeah.
So that kind of sucks for them. But also a lot, like our store, we already have a lot of events that are regularly scheduled.
Yeah.
And it's really awkward trying to have to change those days. Like, we have draft on Friday every day. We have modern on Tuesday every day. And
We have League coming up on
Thursday
Tuesdays.
for modern, Tuesday for league, that sort of thing. Commander's always on Saturdays. So, you know, when Wizard says, oh, and now you have this new thing, but it has to be on this particular day, or it has to be on a weekend.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they're choosing to give stores a bit more flexibility, but of course it is just serving to promote standard, which was their intention all along.
Yep.
So,
And it'll probably do a little better now that stores can fit it into when people actually want to do it.
I assume so. So it's not, there's no loss here for customers at all. This is a win-win proposition for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's pretty much it for news. So I guess we can move on to updates. I'll start off. I did a sealed pool online.
Oh, that's where you're starting, is it?
Chronologically.
Sure, okay.
So we came back from our trip, Tams and I, last weekend, and of course we had the big GP in Toronto this past weekend, which we'll get to in just a minute. And so since I had no experience whatsoever with Hour of Devastation, I took the time to do a friendly sealed league online. My pool was not great. I didn't open any exciting rares. Just kind of solid-ish stuff. So I put together a, what was it, black-green, red? It was red-green aggro.
Yep.
Well, beatdown. Red-green beatdown, we'll say. And then, having done that, I usually try and put together a couple of decks in a pool if I have the time to fiddle around with it, which I do online. So I also put together a blue-red spells deck, which is interesting because I usually try and avoid those type of decks. Now, hear me out, because I'm definitely the control player.
They seem like exactly the kind of deck you'd want.
The thing is that especially in modern formats, by which I just mean ones that are released recently, the blue-red spells deck is not a control deck, it's a tempo deck.
Yeah.
And I always feel that they're maybe a little bit too fragile.
Okay.
Because unless you're, like, stomping someone or getting stomped, I find that most of the games, if you win, it's about a turn before they kill you.
Yeah, I always have that same concern about decks that aren't based around creatures. Mm-hmm. Like I'm mostly the mid-range player, as we've said before, but that tends toward aggressive decks with a little higher curve.
Sure.
You know? So if I don't have a creature every turn, I start to get a little bit nervous.
Right.
So I'm kind of with you
on
that.
So my deck was only running about 10 creatures.
Yeah.
And a lot of spells.
Yeah.
So
how many of those spells were removal?
I had 3 unsummons.
I
had others. I had a couple of Blur Blades, a couple of Open Fires. So like the spells were of good quality. Mm-hmm. I also had one of the Bloodwater entities that puts a spell from your graveyard back on top of your library, instant or sorcery spell. And it's a 2/2 flyer with prowess for 3, so that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. So yeah, overall I ended up going 6-3 in the league. which is funny for reasons you'll hear about in just a minute. And I thought it was actually very strong. I only ended up playing my red-green aggro deck a couple of times just because I did want to actually play with it and see how it felt like. Mm-hmm. But the spells deck was just fun, and it felt powerful, and it felt like if I drew properly, I could just not lose at all.
Sounds really sweet.
And like I said, I didn't even have any of the very powerful cards. I didn't have a Locust God or any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I just had a lot of prowess creatures. I had a couple of things with Afflict. And honestly, my MVP was whatever that 1 in a blue 2-drop 2/1 with prowess and Afflict 2 is. That was like basically my MVP.
Spellweaver something or other, Naga?
Yeah, like it just kind of got me through those last couple points of damage.
Yeah.
So, because I would just bounce their stuff, attack, play more stuff, bounce their stuff, attack. I felt dirty, but it was very effective.
Turns out Afflict is also very good.
Yeah, it is quite good, especially if you just need to get those last points of damage in. Because either they block and take damage, or they don't block and they take damage.
Yep. What about you, Tams? Did you do any Hour of Devastation before the pre-release?
All I did was
GP.
Or, I keep saying pre-release, I mean GP.
The only thing I did was mock draft. That's not true. We all did a couple of practice sealed pools.
Mm-hmm. Like the night before.
Yeah, which we'll get to in a sec, because you are next up with something.
What you did on Friday.
Right, so Tams and I headed down Thursday after work. I got a few days off work because I really wanted to check out the event site before the big Saturday.
Because it's downtown Toronto.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that I could find the place, find parking, and also Friday before a GP, they tend to have last-minute trials to get you buys. Yeah. And I thought I could really use those buys.
Oh, yeah.
So I went and tried, but alas, no. However, I did do one sealed and one standard event. And the way Canadian gambling laws work, you can't just pay to enter a tournament unless you're in a casino or a gambling house. And with Magic events, they want to have them in places that minors can attend because, Magic is an all-ages game.
Yeah.
So when you enter a standard tournament, they give you 6 packs of cards.
And you also have to pay a higher cost of entry.
Right. But that 6 packs, I decided I'd just take, 4 hour to Amonkhet and bring home a sealed pool for us to all attempt. So whereas I got eliminated in the first round of both of my trials because they were single elim, we did end up with a pool of cards to check out.
Yeah.
And I think we came to the conclusion that my sealed deck was like the right deck with a few different cards depending on who was building it.
Yeah, I think we all would have built it differently, but we probably would have been in at least 2 of those 3 same colors.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because I went Mardu because I wanted more power, even if it wasn't as consistent, which is also funny for reasons that we'll get to. But the other pool, the pool that we cracked, Friday night for practice, how did we find that experience?
It was sweet. I mean,
it's fun.
You opened a very good black-white zombie deck.
Yeah. That's true. Like, the pool did build itself.
Yeah.
It was Adorned Pouncer, Regal Caracal, one of the
Panoptic Mirror.
Yes.
Which is also a Regal Caracal.
Yeah. And 2 Regal Caracals is better than 1.
Yeah.
And there was the unweaving or unraveling mummy or whatever, which was quite good with all of the embalm and other mummies that were in the black-white deck. Yeah. So that was sweet. I don't think it prepared us.
No, but it was better than nothing.
Yeah.
It was certainly practice, and then you and I, Steph, ended up playing those decks against each other, which also helped just get a bit more familiar with the situations of combat.
It's true. And that black-white deck proved to be extremely powerful.
Oh, yeah.
I would have liked to open something like that on Saturday. Alas, it was a little more janky than that.
Alright, so how do we want to do the GP?
Again?
Start with me. I have
like,
less
as
to
quickly
say.
as possible.
I have the least to say, I think.
So how was your first GP experience, Tams?
Oh my god, it was amazing. Okay, so what I'm going to be writing an article, probably less about the deck than anything else. But for me, this was my very first GP. It was my second big tournament with the rules level that we were at. But I had never done anything by myself. Like, the last thing I did was Team Sealed with you and John Winter. And so I always felt comfortable because I was with you guys and it wasn't so much building my own pool and doing my own thing. I also suffer from extreme anxiety. And I'm an introvert on top of everything else. So it makes everything that much more difficult. So my fears leading into the GP were all these nebulous, ridiculous things like, what if a judge gets called on something and I lose a game because of something I did or didn't do? What happens if I have to play against somebody that I already know how well they play and consider them better than me? That's just going to make me feel terrible. Both of those things happened, by the way. Spoiler alert. So I went... we start off by exchanging our pools, and to set up for you what happened, I had this awesome bouncy guy who got 2 calls from the judge while we were just exchanging pools and writing them down because he kept talking. And you're not supposed to, but he was really sweet. So we were going through and we did everything, and then towards the end he looks at me and he goes, oh, when we do our own decks and it was after when we were building our decks, do we need to register what lands we're playing? And I said, I think so, but I don't recall exactly, because I know they're checking to make sure that you're playing the cards that are in your pool. So I think so. He's like, let's ask a judge. I'm like,
may I make an interjection?
Sure.
The venue is huge, and the voice on the overhead was very, very echoey.
Yeah, you couldn't really hear.
It was impossible to understand.
What we did was watch what everybody around us was doing and just copied them.
Yeah, along with that, it was not only difficult to hear, but if you were at a table where anyone else was talking, the interference of actually being able to try to make out what was on the loudspeaker was not possible.
Yeah.
So if you go to one of these events and the judges start speaking through the loudspeaker, and you're just starting, opening your packs and whatever, please shut up and listen, because it helps everyone around you. Yes, because I'm
sure they told us, but we couldn't hear. Mm-hmm. So we called a judge over, and it was one of the foreign language judges. I don't remember where they were from. Not English as a first language.
I think it was maybe the Italian judge.
It could have been.
There were a bunch of judges from all over the place.
By the way, side note, judges were phenomenal people. Like, amazing.
They were all great.
They came over and we said, do we need to register the lands we're playing? And they kind of looked at us and they're like, oh, no, you don't need to worry about that. And we're like, okay, cool. So we didn't. So fast forward, I build my deck. My deck went a little something like Angel of Sanctions, Pouncer, all of the black removal. So I was really happy with my deck. It had a really nice curve. Mm-hmm. It was really good. My first match was the Locust God and all of the control.
Your favorite matchup.
Yeah, I got stomped in 2. My second match, I don't even remember what it was, but I got stomped badly in 2. And by that point, I'm like, I see. Oh, well, in 2 more rounds, I'll drop, and then I'll go do a side event.
Because if you end up X and 4, you do not day 2.
You can't day 2. So I thought, that's fine. But up until this point, the 2 people I played were lovely and really fun to play against. I didn't feel outplayed. I just felt like their decks performed better than mine did at that time.
Sure. That doesn't feel as bad then when your opponents are, like, friendly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of equal skill.
Yeah.
So and then the next 3 rounds, I won.
Oh no.
I know, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not dropping then. Then the 4th round comes around, and one of the people that we were hanging out with, a friend of ours from the shop, came over while I was playing, and he looked a little unhappy, and I'm like, what's up? And he told me that he hadn't registered his lands, and he got a game loss because of it, because they came over. He was one of the ones they randomly checked his pool.
No, they actually just go over everybody's
That's
sheets.
what I thought, and you said no.
Yeah, it just took them until the 5th round to get
I guess they do go through everyone's.
They never checked mine.
Why, did you not register your lands?
No, but they never, like... Oh, they check the sheets, not the decks?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They just check the sheets to make
sure.
sure everyone has
So,
40 cards. And
Of
land.
course, I'm in the middle of my first game, and I have this moment of panic. So I finish my game, and I say to my opponent, "You're sideboarding?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "No, I don't care. I'm just going to call a judge. Nothing to do with what we're doing. I just need to speak to them about this." And he's like, "Okay, no problem." So I call a judge over. She's Spanish, and it takes a minute or two for her to understand what I'm saying. And I said, we asked, I guess they misunderstood what it was we were asking. Now, in retrospect, I guess they thought we meant, do we register the basic lands that come in the packs? I said, that's not what we thought, but I just want to tell you now, because if I'm going to get a game loss, I'd rather have it now than have to play through the whole game and have my opponent, play and then get it later. And she's like, hold on, let me go figure it out. She went and got a higher level judge, brought him over, and he's like, yeah, no, we don't make you suffer for our judges not understanding what you're asking. We gave you information that you thought was the answer to the question you were asking. We're not going to penalize you for that.
Was
That's
he wearing
really
a
good.
plummish purple-red shirt?
No.
Not the head judge.
Not the head judge. And I was like, oh, okay, really? He's like, yeah, but he said, all we're going to do is we'll give you a warning, which honestly means nothing. Mm-hmm. We'll just wait here for you to finish your game, your match, and then we'll just take your deck and we'll count the lands, we'll register it, it's all good. So, I've had to go through this horribly stressful experience. Now I have to play it the rest of my match with the judges watching.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, please kill me now. Well, I won the game.
Yay!
Yay! And so the other thing that was weird was I had to play somebody from our shop who I consider a high-level Magic player.
He's very competitive.
He's very competitive.
Yes, he is.
I have never considered myself in the same league as him, play style-wise. I played against him to a draw. I did not feel outplayed at all. And then when we went to go to we were going to draw because of time. We went to turns and we were going to draw.
Yes.
He said to me, you know what, your deck is really sweet. I'm just going to concede to you because you might have a chance to go on. I will not. So he conceded, which was really sweet of him.
That's really classy.
It absolutely was, but he also had 2 buys and he was playing against you.
Yeah.
So he went 2-2 at this point with his deck.
Yeah, so
Sure.
he knew his deck
Yeah.
was not the best.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting for me, and it was scary, and it taught me to have a little more self-confidence in myself.
yeah.
And by the time I got to the next round, my brain was pretty much done in, and I had my first, not the best opponent. He was okay, but he was a little, like a fast player in that hurry up, you're not playing fast enough kind of way. Like he's over anxious, you want to staple him to the chair.
Yeah.
And that was a little difficult, and I was really tired, so I didn't play as well as I could. So I lost that round, and then I lost the 8th round. And by that point, I was like, you know what? I'm just out of day 2.
Mm-hmm. You were 4-4, right?
Yeah, I thought, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. There's nothing to be gained as far as moving on or prizes. And I'm tired. So I think 8 rounds of Magic is enough for me.
Yeah.
So that was where I stepped out. But it was amazing. And it was the weirdest experience for me because I was certain that I was very outclassed coming to this event, but I didn't feel it there. I felt like I had as good a chance as anybody I faced.
Yeah.
Which was super nice.
So
That's good.
I guess one thing we should mention, although I believe that you're certainly at the level of everybody else who was there, there was also the GP Kyoto happening at the exact
so
same
none of
time.
the pros were there.
Yeah.
All the pros were in Kyoto because the Pro Tour is in Japan next weekend.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we didn't have Huey Jensen or any of those types of people necessarily at the GP.
Which is
I'm
nice.
honestly a little miffed about that. Like, I don't understand why they would schedule 2 limited GPs on the same weekend.
Well, it's not like you were going to go to Japan.
No, but it would have been nice if it had capped out. Like, if GP Toronto had maxed out, and it didn't do that.
No.
So-
Nor did it receive any coverage.
Yeah, that
because
kind of
everyone
was-
was focused on GP Kyoto. We had a
Nuts,
friend,
yeah.
John Winters, also known as the Mana Leak, as in the vegetable, not the spell. He was the feature match of round 1.
Was he?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
How would you know that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was there were no video recordings at all of the feature matches, and they didn't even have someone recording what was happening until the 3rd round, which is
Wow.
when all the buys come in.
Yeah.
So he and another YouTuber, and, John doesn't have an insignificant following on YouTube, but they were there in round 1 in the feature match, and you'll never be able to find a record of that fact anywhere else.
That makes me sad.
Kind of sucks, yeah.
Because that's exciting. That would have been fantastic for him.
Well,
and that's,
I'm sure he'll do a GP report, and I definitely...
he has.
I'm definitely going to go watch that, because...
It's up on YouTube.
Sweet.
And,
we'll link it down below if anybody else is curious.
Yeah,
sure. It was kind of
Absolutely.
interesting, though, because he said his opponent had only been playing for Magic for a couple of months.
Oh,
wow.
Interesting.
So, you've been playing for a month or two, it's your first GP, and you're in the feature match, so maybe it was better that it was low stakes, but...
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. All right,
So,
who's next?
It's funny. I think I'll
You,
go next.
yeah,
'cause
that
We'll
makes
build
sense.
the suspense.
we'll build the
Yes.
suspense. So I also called a judge on myself. And this was in the 8th round, 7th or 8th. So I was getting tired.
Mm-hmm.
So we had presented decks. We'd shuffled up, we'd cut, and then I look at my sideboard and I realize that my one-sleeved card that I side in every second game isn't there. So I quickly count my deck and realize that I'm running 41.
Oh.
Which, I mean... It was just a boneheaded error, right? So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
the sort of thing you do when you're tired.
is it better to be an upstanding competitor and call a judge now so that they don't, catch me red-handed doing something dumb? Yes, of course. So
That's
I
how
called
I
the
felt
judge
every
too.
time.
every
Yeah.
single time. So I called the judge and I said, look, I accidentally shuffled in a card from my sideboard. We have presented decks. We haven't started playing yet. I mean, the round hadn't even started yet.
Yeah.
What do we do? And he very thoughtfully went through everything and then went to check with a higher level judge just to be sure. And then I got a warning.
Oh, no.
And I think I got to take out the offending card.
Yeah, you would.
Maybe I didn't. I don't. Yeah, because you have to
Present a 40-card deck, if that's what you
present
registered.
your original list. So yeah.
Did you... it hadn't started, right?
By the time everything had happened, we were like a minute into the round starting.
Because that's something I did forget. They actually gave me a 3-minute time extension,
That
too.
was nice.
For the time it took for me to talk, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So how'd you do? What was your pool like?
My pool was pretty good. I enjoyed the deck that I built, but I tried every permutation of the deck.
Yeah.
Like, I went through and quickly identified my best cards in each color, and then put together every single deck
Iteration of
that I
it, yeah.
could. And what I ended up with was Jund.
Of course, because then you can jund them out.
What I really ended up with was black-green, splashing Kenra Charioteer and Samut the Tested, who is the Planeswalker from Hour of Devastation. And, for value, at that point, an Electrify.
Are you sure it wasn't that you splashed the Electrify into Samut and for value you ran a Charioteers?
I mean, maybe. So, my removal was stronger in red, but I wasn't going to run a 3-color deck, so I just threw in the best removal that I had. Because there was also, I think, a Magma Spray, but I didn't want to risk needing a Magma Spray turn 1 and,
Sure.
My mana ended up being 6 forest, 6 swamps, and 5 red sources. But 2 of those red sources were survivors' encampments, so they were also forests and
So
swamps.
you had 7.
8, 8, and 5, which is fine.
Yes.
One of those 5 red sources was a Ramanap Ruins, and the other two were Deserts of the Fervent. So I had the potential to Ramanap ruin my opponents.
You just like saying that.
I do. I didn't realize until I actually started looking for the deserts that I could only do it a max of 2 times.
Right, because then you're out of red.
Then I'm out of red. But I figured I only need it once or twice anyway, and so that was fine. Also, because I was running 5 deserts, I was running a Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs, which, when you control a desert, you can tap it to ping your opponent. And that was totally fine. as far as my green black pool, I had a Tenacious Hunter and a Bone Picker. I had just random beef, a Dread Wanderer, which was great at coming back and dying lots of times.
I see.
And Kenra Eternal, yeah, just randomly fine stuff. I also had a Torment of Venom and a Lethal Sting and a Trial of Ambition, which, even though I didn't have any cartouches, was fine.
Right.
So it wasn't the most amazing deck, but it was solid.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun to play. So that was, I think, where I wanted to be. Because if it wasn't a fun deck, I probably wouldn't have had the constitution to get through 8 rounds.
Yeah, because you have to play the same deck each time for the whole day.
So my one card that I sideboarded in every single round was I had a Grizzly Survivor in the main deck, and I sided in my Wasteland Scorpion, which I honestly just forgot was in my pool when I was building.
Ah, yes.
It was one of those things where I'm searching through my pool and I'm like, what? Why am I not running this? And so from that point on, I just sided it in every game too.
Yeah.
Because it's just better in my deck than Grizzly Survivor. Mm-hmm. So, first round, I thought, okay, my deck is mediocre, but whatever, I'll go for it. I came up against a guy with Angel of Condemnation, Angel of Sanctimony, Sanctions, and a Curator of Glyph Keeper. So I'm like, that's the deck that this deck is not great against.
That's a Blue-Eyed Skies deck, it sounds like.
But turns out that I had just enough removal, and he was just scared enough of my curve to let me take victory. So that was great.
Off to a good start.
Round 2, I won handily. Round 3, the buys came in, and a guy who had 2 buys was my round 3 opponent. He said, well, I don't know how good my deck is. I'm a little nervous because you have been here since 9 and seem to be crushing it, so we'll see. And then proceeded to, what's the horse?
Oh,
create
that beautiful horse.
Unlimited horses all over my face, and that was painful.
Got stomped?
I got trampled by horses. He was gaining just enough life that I couldn't even try to race. Yeah. Oh, and he also had the mirror. So,
yeah, multiple horses.
So all of the horses.
Yeah, that was a crushing defeat. But I felt okay because, he had a horse.
Yeah.
He had lots of horses. So I continued on winning the 4th and 5th. I was 5-1, I think.
Mm-hmm. You were doing really well like that. 4-1.
Yeah, 4-1, because then I lost. Right, I lost the next 2 in a row. So at 4-3, that was kind of my sign that I'm probably not going to make day 2.
Because you then have to win the next 2 rounds.
Yeah, but what the heck, will go for it. So my round 8 opponent was in the same boat, and it was sort of not demoralizing because we were all there at the same table. We were all the 4-3s.
Yeah. And
we were like, well, half of us are going to make it. Who knows which half? And it turned out it wasn't my half. So,
right.
4-4, I decided I've had enough. If Tams is dropping, maybe we'll go and do a side event. Maybe we'll just chill. Maybe I'll definitely come back tomorrow for side events.
The 3 of us carpooled, so we were all stuck there until we were all done.
Yes. Yeah. So I didn't want to just go on to the 9th round and if it didn't really matter.
Yeah. Because at this point we've been playing Magic for 12 hours, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was a long day. But I was very glad to have that experience. Mm-hmm. So how'd you do, Laura?
Yeah, I did all right. So my pool was actually just solid. I opened a Hazoret the Fervent, the Red God from Amonkhet, and the Scarab God, which is the blue-black one that creates zombies out of people's graveyards for, 3 blue-black. But my green and my white pools were also not amazing, but they were respectable. So I actually could have basically been any combination of colors. But look, I'm at a GP and I opened 2 gods, and while neither of them were Nicole Bolas, I still feel I must offer up my devotion and thanks. So I went Grixis.
So I hear that discarding cards into reanimation is kind of a good thing?
I never actually did that.
Oh.
I didn't get both gods on the board at any point. I had one or the other.
Well, it's not very likely.
And then I won,
yeah.
basically. So, my deck, I also had an Earthshaker Kenra, which is the 2-mana 2-1 with haste, where when it enters the battlefield, you can stop something from blocking.
That also seems very good.
And it, whatchamacallit, comes back. Not a bomb.
Eternalizes.
It eternalizes, so then you have a 4/4 that with haste that makes something not be able to block. So I was mostly red and black. I've splashed blue for the Scarab God, and for 2 Unquenchable Thirsts. Those are the 1 and a blue enchantments that stop something from untapping, and if you have a desert in the battlefield or in the graveyard, it will also tap them. And since I was splashing those 3, I also splashed the Bloodwater Entity, which is that 1 blue-red flyer with prowess that I mentioned, just because I appreciated the ability to get a removal spell back.
Is very good.
I'm running 2 Open Fires, a Lethal Sting, and a Blur of Blades. To get back, I have more than once won by open firing my opponent's face, so that was useful.
How is Blur of Blades?
It was fine.
Yeah? Alright.
I mean, being able to just deal 2 damage to them was usually more the upside, but also just being able to kill one of their things. I had a Traveler's Amulet, which helped me enable the splash. And then I was running 2 deserts. Desert of the Glorified, which is the black cycle land. And then I also had a Ramonep Ruins, which is the red sacrifice a desert, deal 2 to your opponent's face card. Which was great, because I was running 2 Wretched Camels. Which, when they die, if you have a desert in play or in the graveyard, your opponent has to discard a card. Which actually was maybe my quiet MVP, just because I would usually draw, I would almost always have at least one of these for turn 2. Play it. I do only have 2 deserts, so it wasn't always active, but when it was, if my opponent used removal on it, I basically got a 2 for 1. If they traded, I basically got a 2 for 1.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, I actually had an opponent, I had 3 creatures on the board, they had 1, they board wiped, and then they had to discard 2 cards. So it was a 4 for 3 from me.
Yep. It was also impressive for me in that people didn't want to block it.
Yeah.
So it just got in for 6, which is what you want out of a 2-drop.
For your 2-drops.
And there's a surprising amount of, I don't know if it's card advantage or just there's stuff to do in the graveyard. So people have cards in hand really late in this format.
I noticed that too.
So it's like you can't even wait until your hand is empty and then kill their camel. You know? It just seems a little better than you would expect.
Yeah, that's how I'd phrase it. Like, you'd expect it to be like a C- because it's a 2-1 for 2.
Yeah.
Maybe a C+.
Yeah.
If you have at least 2 deserts in your deck.
Yeah.
3 is where you want at least, but 2, even with 2, it was still fine.
And 5 is strong.
I also had a Firebrand Archer, which is the 2-1 red creature, where when you cast a non-creature spell, it pings your opponent for 1.
I like it.
I like it too. It got in for a bit of damage, and that's all I wanted it for. So then that was basically my 2-drop slot. My 3-drop slot, I had a Thresher Lizard, which is great with Hazaret, because you're trying to get rid of cards anyway. A Thorned Moloch, which was actually the MVP of my blue-red Prowess sealed deck that I ran for the Friendly Sealed League. It's a 3-mana 2-2 with Prowess that gets first strike when it attacks.
First strike and Prowess are great together.
It's really hard to block.
Yeah.
And like I said, my deck basically was a beatdown deck. I wouldn't call it an aggro deck, but I usually was trying to just hit them in the face a lot.
Okay.
So it's very hard to block. And Banewhip Punisher, which is a 2-2 for 3, and when it enters the battlefield, you can put a -1/-1 counter on something.
That one annoyed me all day.
So I would often use it to kill my opponent's 2-drop, which annoyed them a lot.
Yeah.
And then, in a great combination with Blur of Blades and also the Scarab God, you can pay a black and sacrifice it to destroy a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also pretty relevant. And then, yeah, that was basically how my curve went. I had a Sand Strangler, which is the 3/3 for 4 that deals 3 damage to a creature if you have a desert in play or on the graveyard, on more often than not for me, because I ran a bit lucky, which is kind of how you have to do well in a GP.
Yeah.
And yeah, Scarab God was most of my top end, although I was also running a couple of other random 5 drops in red to fill up my curve. And I ended up going 6-3 in day 2ing.
That was pretty awesome for a first GP. Holy gosh.
It was impressive, and we were like
dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we were super happy for you.
It was nice because, again, it was my first GP,
Mm-hmm.
and I've only been playing for a couple of years, so I was actually the newest of the 8 or so people, like regulars, who were there from the shop. There were quite a few people I recognized beyond that, but there were a bunch of us who all knew each other pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So we were checking in between rounds and stuff like that. I lost round 1. So
interesting.
That's right. I forgot.
I was not, like, Step was actually the one that we were all expecting to go far.
Yeah, because you won your first 3 or 4, right?
I won my first 2.
Okay.
And in fairly short order.
Yeah.
And
so we were all like, oh, well, Step's what he calls mediocre deck is just crushing people, so maybe he'll go far and stuff like that. And then I just kind of didn't lose very much after that. I lost my first round, and I lost my last round, which means I was 6-2 going into round 9. You need to get 6-3 to day 2. I knew I was going to make it at the end of round 8.
Yeah, you were at the fun table for round 9.
Round 9 was so nice. But yeah, so it was great. I just lost a random game at like round 6 or something like that. And otherwise, I mostly won, and I mostly won in 2.
Wow.
And I can't even say it was all the gods. I won with the gods maybe 15% of my games.
You know, looking at your deck, it looks like it was your curve.
It was absolutely my curve. So usually what I went with was turn 1, maybe played nothing, maybe played a Traveler's Amulet, maybe played my Festering Mummy, which is also annoying with the Punisher.
Yeah.
Turn 2, play a 2-1. Turn 3, play a 2-2 or a 3-2 or something like that. Turn 4, play another 2-2 and a removal spell, or a 2-1 and a removal spell, or a god, or just kill their creature, hit him in the face a lot. So my deck curved out really nicely, which is the way to go in sealed.
Yeah.
And then I actually killed more people with Ramanap Ruins than I did with my gods.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
So the
I
Ramanap
guess it is
Ruins,
the last 2.
Yep. So I just would often need either 2 damage or 5 damage, and then I would open fire, wait till my next turn Ramanap Ruins surface, because Ramanap Ruins can sacrifice itself.
Mm-hmm.
Key. Yeah, I did get to go off with the Scarab God once. Only once. If I got to play him, my opponent happened to have removal for him. They would have Hour of Devastation for my Hazaret, and they would have that 4 mana, 5 damage exiles red card for my Scarab God.
Yeah.
Which is annoying, but, it was fine, because my deck still won without him, which was good.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like I said, I lost my first round, which kind of put me in the loser's bracket, but then I won, lost a random game, won a bunch more, and I think maybe part of the reason I was able to do well for so long was that I did win most of my games quickly, so there was always at least 20 minutes left on the clock, which meant that I got time to go and get a drink and sit down and decompress.
That mostly.
Yeah, that made a big difference in the rounds that I was quick on too, because I think it was, I don't know, 6 or 7. I absolutely had to go and get a coffee.
Yeah.
Or something.
Most of my rounds went to turns. My first round, we were one of 2 or 3 games still playing. So we also had everybody gathered around.
Of course.
Which is also very
I'm actually
successful.
really impressed that you made it as far as you did, being the case, because I know how you hate long games.
Oh.
Yeah.
Especially against control.
Yeah.
Or
Chill
just
now.
grinding out.
Yeah.
And you didn't seem to be letting it get to you, like,
No,
at all.
I wasn't. It was just so exciting to be there. The people were so nice, and it was just super fun, so it was really good.
Yep.
But then we had a day 2.
Well, just before then, I also, in my round 9, like Steph said, everybody at our table had already clinched it for day 2.
That must be a nice environment.
We were all 6 and 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everybody, when they sat down, their opponent would go, hey, congratulations on making day 2. Everybody would shake hands. Everybody was smiling. Nobody was expecting prizes, so nobody really cared how well they did in this particular round.
Yeah.
Because, you know, at 6 and 2, you need to basically go perfect the next day to prize.
Yeah.
Because it's only top 64 because of the number of people who are there.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's possible, for sure, but you're not going to count on it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't counting on it at all. I wasn't playing that well. I was super tired. My opponent had actually gone 6 and 1 and then lost his next round to be at the 6 and 2 table. So he was already, his deck was a bit better than mine. You know, it was just a bit more on point than mine was. And yeah, I was tired at this point. I've never gone more than 6 rounds of Magic in my life.
Yeah, that's fair. Neither have I.
Yeah. So this is round 9. It's like 9:30. We left at 7 to get to the place in time for the tournament to start and things like that. So yeah, it was tiring, but I'm so glad that my last round was stress-free. Because at the win and in table, they were not having nearly as much fun.
Yeah. You could see that.
Yeah, so, you know, everybody's stressed out. You know, maybe asking for concessions. Like, it's stressful, for sure. So I'm really glad that it wasn't the case for me. So yeah, then we went to day 2. I had to be there early.
Yeah.
You guys did not.
We decided we were going to go with you, but we decided to take separate cars this time, and because we were going home afterwards, so we had to go our separate ways. We woke up at the appropriate time, and like the room was spinning.
Both of us were having problems with lightheadedness.
So I don't know how you did it. You even had to drive home the night before.
Oh yeah.
You know? Or you drove us back to where we were staying, which is like an hour away from the venue.
We took my vehicle on Saturday, so
yeah.
So, congratulations for getting up, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah, I even left early because there was not construction. They just closed a couple of roads in downtown Toronto for a triathlon bike route. And we didn't think it would have a major impact on the route we were taking, but what if it was affecting everybody else, which would affect us, even on a Sunday morning, just because there might be people spectating for the triathlon, that sort of thing. So I ended up leaving actually earlier than we had on Saturday, which meant since there was zero traffic, I got there really early. So I just got to sit around a bit. I ate some breakfast, I drank some water, had a bit of time to prepare myself.
Prepare yourself for your day 2 draft.
That's right, day 2 of a limited GP is draft. Draft Cat, what are you doing? And then, yeah, it's my first time ever drafting Hour of Devastation, because I had, if you recall, done the one sealed, and that was all. So my pro tip, if you are ever going to a GP, try practicing the format first. It probably helps.
That sounds like good advice.
Did you find it really stressed? Because what I was scared of, I was scared to make day 2, to be honest. If for only the reason that everything is timed, your choices are timed, and you also cannot look at your picks except for 30 seconds between each pack.
It's actually a minute for your first pack and a minute and a half for your second pack.
Okay.
I will say this: the overhead was like we said, super muddy the first day. They actually got a completely different judge to make the draft announcements to let you know when you needed to pick up your first pack, and then when to, you know, make your pick, when to lay out your packs to the next person, and then when to pick up the next pack, etc., etc., etc. So it's this big thing, but the guy that got to narrate was very clear.
Well, that's good.
And so that made it so much easier for everybody else.
Yeah, we were there for the second draft and listening to it, and while it did sound intense, because they were, like, very deliberate about what they said, it did sound like it would be helpful.
Oh, yeah, and it's required, because it is timed.
Right.
And, you know, there's also you have to call a judge over if any of your cards seemed marked, which means that your pod might get off to a slightly different start. So they had a few judges who were, like, running a couple of draft pods on different timings, which was a bit distracting, but it's a draft, so you're trying to concentrate on your own cards. I tend not to look at my cards too much between picks, even at an F&M level, just because I know that at a competitive level you're not supposed to, so I try not to pick up bad habits, even when I was kind of newer. And that's, I think, really helped, just because I had the practice, and I also wasn't just reaching for them by habit, which some people were. But yeah, I just, in your head, I just would keep a running tally of creature, low drop, or creature, high drop, or removal, or 24th card if I, need to fit it in, I can, sort of thing. And then just keeping an eye on what colors we were picking. I was mostly open. I went pick 1 red removal spell, pick 2 red removal spell, pick 3 red removal spell, so I knew I was in red.
Fair enough.
But I didn't settle on a third color until basically pack 3, just because I didn't open anything particularly great. I didn't see a good second color being passed around or anything like that. But again, I also don't have any practice at drafting this set, and I feel like that certainly would have helped me read the signals a bit better. So I ended up going 1 and 2 in my first draft. And then you get to draft again. And keep in mind there are no breaks at any point, day 1 or day 2. You get breaks between rounds, and hopefully you have time to eat lunch somewhere in there.
Now, that having been said, I mean, every single round went to turns.
Yes, and then, at least 10 minutes after.
Yeah, like 10 to 15. So there was time.
Unless you were stuck in rounds.
Like I was. Yes.
And then, the second draft, I was mono green, splashing 3 colors, which is the favorite deck of one of our friends from the shop, basically. But our pool opened very weak packs. I talked to a couple of the different people who were drafting, when I played them and stuff, and that was kind of agreed upon. And I have no idea what my second color was supposed to be. I had like 23 solid playable green cards, except I only had 1 cartridge of strength for removal, which is why I was splashing. Otherwise, I could have just been mono green.
This is the second draft?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm not really sure what was happening. At this point, I was tired and I was out of prizes. So, I was like, I'll just play a game or 2 for fun just to see how the deck plays out, and then I'm going to drop and go home. Because I still had to drive home after this. A couple hours. So, yeah, I ended up going 0 and 2 for that one and dropping. I think I could have done alright, except my first round opponent had a disgusting deck, and he had multiple blue, mythics, basically. So he had a very good deck. And then my second round opponent had 3 fan bearers. So that was awkward. Plus, I ended up getting the ramp side of my deck, including 12 lands. And none of the creatures.
None of the payoff?
To play against fan bearers, because that definitely encourages a go-wide strategy.
Yeah.
So I feel if we played a bunch of games, I probably would have had a fighting chance, but just the way I drew, I had nothing. So, yeah, that was pretty much it for me. I did not play in any side events. I was kind of magicked out at that point.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then, so I went home. I ended the day going, 7 and 7, I think, and that was all right for me. I was very happy today, too. And
that's exciting.
I appreciated the chance to get 2 essentially free drafts, because I'd already paid for them. And I might have drafted Anissa.
Which is pretty sweet.
I'm just saying. Over nothing. There's nothing else in the pack that I wanted.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean, you also could have splashed her. That was in your blue-red deck?
Yes.
So...
Yeah.
That was my first draft deck. Yeah, I ended up going blue-red. So that was my GP experience. Overall, a fun experience. Everybody was super nice. I did not play against any opponents who were anything less than graceful and lovely people.
So are you going again next year?
Next year is modern?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
what about for side events?
Unless I put together, I'll probably end up going even just for side events.
Yeah, we actually went back for day 2 for side events.
Yeah, we got there not as early as we had intended, but you know what? We got to spend some time with your parents, so whatever.
Yeah, that was good. Since it was their house we were crashing at.
Yes.
We did go back and we looked at the side events thing, and a couple of things had just fired that we might have been interested in, so we decided to wait an hour and do a 2-headed giant sealed, because we hadn't had enough sealed at that point.
No, you can never have too much sealed.
That's right.
Plus, two-headed giant doesn't even count.
Oh man, two-headed giant is so much fun. I wish that we had enough interest in our shop for a pre-release in it.
We did during the Battle for Zendikar Oath of the Gatewatch sets, and it was very fun.
Specifically a two-headed giant set.
It was great. I played with a good friend of mine, and we had a ton of fun.
We had a really good time, with the exception, so our first round is a man and a woman, a couple, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be so sweet. Another female to play against, and it was not a fun experience.
So her partner was kind of a play hard and was very, overbearing about directing her in exactly what she should be doing. And she was fairly new, it looked like, to the game.
And his mannerisms were slightly derogatory. I really didn't like the way he was. And he was very high-strung, nervous kind of player. And Step pointed out at one point that he had us at a different life total, which he figured out quite quickly that it was because he turned his 6 and 9 upside down, which he also did with his own life total.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we were at 19, he had us at 16, and it turned out to be relevant for the round.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
And it was a difficult game to play. It wasn't fun. And that's the whole thing with Two-Headed Giant, is it's a slightly more relaxed format.
Who spikes a Two-Headed Giant?
Yeah, and then afterwards you went off to get us coffee and tea, and they were behind me, and he must have spent 15 minutes tearing apart the game and telling her what she did wrong, and I still don't understand where that 4 damage that they're talking about was coming from, because there's no way I wrote down things wrong. And I'm just like, dude, let it go.
Yeah,
okay.
Let it go. And also,
Didn't you end up drawing that game anyway?
We did, and I kind of feel bad about it because, if it were a friendlier game, we would have just, I don't know, flipped a coin or something. You can't do that. Well, okay, then,
agreed upon something,
but I wasn't willing to give any quarter with that guy in particular. Yeah. Especially because he was like, okay, I guess we pulled the trigger on our strategy a turn early because we managed to come back from a board wipe. And it's like, were you going to put anything else on the field at that point? I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
He just assumed that we were going to play into his hands.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He was a level 1 Magic player.
Yeah.
I guess.
However, the next 2 rounds, so we went 1-1-1.
That Two-Headed Giant really redeemed itself.
Oh, we had some phenomenal opponents, and they were so much fun.
Yeah.
And that was the experience that I wanted.
Yeah.
But then after we finished that, we decided to go check out the vendors. Mm-hmm. And
there weren't too many, but
Steve Argyle was there, and he is my favorite Magic artist. And he has this cat token that I love. I have it on my desktop sometimes.
This little furball will probably direct people to his page.
DeviantArt page. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he had the tokens there, and so we bought 15 tokens, and Steph's like, so which one do you want him to sign? I'm like, the cat. And he's like, no. I'm going to sign them all because you're buying them. I'll sign them all for you. He was so nice. And his art, he has my favorite Lily and my favorite Chandra art.
Mm. He also has a couple of playmats there from book covers that he's
novels
done.
That he's doing.
That I did not recognize, but the art was sweet.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that was exciting for me.
You said he had a very sensible signing policy?
Yeah, first 4 autographs are free. Unlike the rest of the artists that were there, which I'm not saying anything negative about that. Everyone has their own policy.
Yeah.
But I thought that was incredibly generous. Mm-hmm. And
or he'd sign all of them.
Or he'd say anything.
If you bought.
Yeah, absolutely.
He seemed very just friendly.
Yeah.
And I was actually kind of impressed with his booth wolf. He had someone there to keep him on track and keep people from staying too long, and she was nice but authoritative,
sensible.
Very sensible.
So he sounds like he was just very professional.
Yeah. Very, very nice. He heard us talking because I was saying, oh, he's my favorite artist. He does my favorite Lily, my favorite Chandra, and he goes, oh, thank you so much for that. I was like, oh. And he was doing some altars at the time.
Yeah.
That were really neat.
Those altars were real sweet too.
Yeah, so you guys should check him out. I will put a link in the down below. So yeah. So
one other thing I wanted to talk about just before we head off, the gender breakdown.
Oh yeah.
So, for the Magic tournament?
For the GP. So on day 1, Tams and I both noticed there were a fair number of women there.
Yes, there were. Steph played against one, actually.
Yes, I only played against one woman, but it was a cool experience. Like, she was a great player. Her deck wasn't cooperating with her, unfortunately. She drew all of her islands.
Yeah.
And I can attest to the fact that decks do not work if you only draw one color of mana.
It's true.
And it was also nice that it just, at least for the first few rounds, it was a pretty casual environment. Like, none of the people with buys were there.
Yeah.
So it was just everybody who was a casual player who hadn't accumulated enough Planeswalker points to get those buys or hadn't won a last minute, trial or anything like that. So it was just really friendly. There were a fair number of new people there, or what I would consider to be newer players, just in the sense that they aren't, weekly Friday night regulars or anything like that.
You know what else was interesting, though? I found that I played against a lot of people who were GP grinders, but they were also, like, still very friendly. They weren't like the playhards that you get at an FNM that is offering a really sweet promo or whatever.
Right.
They were all like, yeah, well, this is my 3rd GP for the year, but I don't know, I'm not doing too well today, or I'm doing fine, or like, how's your deck? Are you having fun? It was very conversational.
Yeah, a lot of people from America and a lot of people from Quebec.
Yeah, I noticed that too. So what was the gender breakdown like on day 2?
Oh, yeah, so I saw, including myself, 3 women.
Wow.
Who made day 2. And that was like, 180, 200 people, something like that, day 2. Not very many.
There were a lot of women in the side events area.
Yeah, which was cool. But,
yeah, well, I mean, it may be that was representative of the actual breakdown of genders at the tournament too.
I don't think so. There were. I mean, I can understand your point. Like, there were certainly a lot of guys day 1 who weren't there day 2 as well.
Yeah. I just don't know. You notice people when they're in clumps, maybe?
That's true.
But I don't know.
But
I don't have those statistics.
Yeah. So it was just kind of interesting. I mean, I was glad that some of us did make it, but it was overall just a more casual environment than I was expecting, and that might just be because I wasn't expecting any prizes. Yeah. I wasn't up in the top, 64 players where they probably were much more competitive than we were down at the 7 and 4 bracket, not expecting to get anything.
But still, I think it was a great turnout. I was very pleased with my performance, and I can't wait to do it again.
And we all had fun.
Oh my gosh, so much fun. So.
And came home very tired.
Yes. Yeah, it was a long drive home, too.
We're still recovering. Well, you and I especially, because we just got back from
BC.
From BC.
We didn't even have a weekend to recharge. We were just off.
Yeah. So, it was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, overall, even if you're not expecting to do well, even if you think that the players are going to be much better than you,
go.
Try it. I mean, even if you just want to do side events. But most GP players are just like you.
Yep.
And even a newbie can play and even do well, win against someone who's much more experienced.
Absolutely. That's part of the nature of the game and variance in the game is sometimes you just win.
Yep, and in order to do well at a GP, you kind of have to be a bit lucky.
Yep. Cool. So I guess that's our cast for this week. Thanks very much for joining us, and as always, you can find us on YouTube at Gathering Information. You can find our website. Links to everything we do, including our social media, are in the podcast description. We will be back next week with another exciting topic and probably talk about some news that we forgot about this week because it's at the back of my brain, but I can't remember
I don't know what you're talking about. I am perfect at newscasting.
Anyway.
All right, you guys. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.